Coverage of the 2018 Commonwealth Games. Brought to you by Manx Radio and Manx Telecom.
And a very good morning to you if you're in the Isle of Man. Hello to you if you're listening elsewhere in the world, not least if you're here in Australia, like we are, around 9 hours ahead. It's approaching 10 minutes past 5 in the evening here in Australia. We thank Colin Gartshaw for the weather there at the Met Office in Ronaldsway. Let's see the conditions here in Australia today, because it's been a bit of a mixed day. The weather has fluctuated. It's been warm at all times, as I'm sure you can imagine, but it has rained a bit. We had a brief down at around about 12:30 till 1:15 this evening. I'm currently at the Broadbeach Lawn Bowling Centre, where Manx pairing, the son pairing of Clive and Mark McGreal, are in action against Wales, and we'll be bringing you updates of that later on. But before we cover today's action, let's take you through what happened last night, because of course it was the opening ceremony. It took place at the Carrara Stadium last night. The flag bearer for the Isle of Man was cyclist Jake Kelly. Here's how the action folded.
We've got a cyclist, Jake Kelly, carrying the Triskelion flag for the Isle of Man. The Manx men and women who've travelled from the capital Douglas, 50 miles off the Lancashire coast, 31 strong team. Sadly, it doesn't include Mark Cavendish, their icon of sports, injured himself a couple of weeks ago. But they do have chances in cycling. And look out for a family affair in the bowls, because we've got police officer Mark McGreal, who's competing in the bowls alongside his dad Clive, and the team managed by his mum, Bernice.
As you come together at the start of these games, I continue to be inspired by the courage, enthusiasm, and dedication of all those taking part. I send my warm wishes to every competing individual and team, and to all those who have helped to bring about the first Commonwealth Games in this very special part of Australia, the Gold Coast. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it now gives me the greatest pleasure to declare the 21st Commonwealth Games open.
And there we are. That was the voice, of course, of Prince Charles. He was one of the dignitaries at the opening ceremony alongside Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull, and the Manx athletes were paraded around the Carrara Stadium on Australia's Gold Coast. 35,000 people in attendance. Now, flag bearer, we said just there, was cyclist Jake Kelly, and his grandfather had the same honour bestowed upon him in the first ever Commonwealth Games that the Manx appeared at back in 1958 in Wales. And that announcement was made in the Sky Point building, the highest point in the Gold Coast, yesterday evening, or I should say on Tuesday evening where you are. But I'll hand you over to Joe Pack, who can tell you more.
Yes, a very good morning to you in the Isle of Man. What an honour it is to be out here at the Commonwealth Games on the Gold Coast in Australia. It's the first time I've been to Australia, and we're having the most amazing experience. We have already, well, we've been at triathlon this morning, but we're going to talk to you about that a little bit later. As Chris does say, we have an announcement that was made that Jake Kelly was going to be the flag bearer for the opening ceremony. And ironically, I actually managed to catch up with fellow cyclist Nick Corlett to just ask Jake how it felt to be chosen.
So Jake, how do you feel about waving the flag tomorrow?
Yeah, it's an honour to wave the flag with all the other athletes here, especially Nick Corlett. He's multiple gold medalist in the Island Games. True. Also got silver one last year.
And end-to-end champion, don't forget that one.
And Nathan Draper, second place in the end-to-end behind the great Nick Corlett. So looking forward to it.
Oh my goodness me, I tell you what, if you want to have a giggle, if you want to actually see Nick Corlett in action, then make sure you go to Manx Radio's Facebook page to watch the full interview. Trust me, it's worth it. And you know what, Chris? I think I've just lost my job.
Well, it is a very entertaining interview. So as Joe says, head to the Manx Radio Facebook page and check that out if you have spare time. Well, let's move on to today's action because we have the triathlon, which was at. She will continue with the coverage of that a bit later on. But for me, I was at the Gold Coast Aquatic Centre and the first athletes for the Isle of Man, the Aquatic Centre, to take to the pool were the swimmers, of course. We had all 4 females in action today, starting with Laura Kinley. She, alongside Stephanie Brew and Neve Robson, were contesting the women's 50-metre breaststroke in the pool at the Aquatic Centre, all in different heats. Laura Kinley finished 5th in her heat with a time of 31.99. That was 5th in her heat. The winner of that heat, Heat 1, incidentally, was Alia Atkinson of Jamaica, who holds the game's record of 30.7. So she won the heat. Second was Faith Nelson of Canada, with Chloe Tutton of Wales coming in 3rd place. But Laura Steph breaking her Commonwealth Games debut, and what a proud moment it was for her, her friends, her family, and there were several Manx flags on display in the crowd. It was a packed out crowd, I say, and the conditions while they were swimming were very nice. Well, Steph Brew took to the pool in her debut with a time of 33 seconds, 33.71 seconds. That ranked her 7th. She finished behind Leston Pickett of Australia, the home nation, of course, and South Africa's Tatiana Schoenemaker won 2nd, and Beth Sloan of Wales in 3rd. Now, that time for Steph Brew of 33.71 seconds, unfortunately, was not enough for her to qualify. Laura Kinley's time of 31.99 seconds was. She finished in 12th overall out of the 3 heats. Now, the 3rd swimmer for the Isle of Man in the women's metre breaststroke was Neve Robinson. She appeared at the Games in Glasgow 4 years ago, so this is not a new experience for her, although the conditions here in Australia, I'm sure, are. She also, like Steph Brew, finished in 7th place in Heat 3. She finished in 19th, which means she only narrowly missed out on qualifying for its semi-finals. And there was one more Manx swimmer in action, and that was Charlotte Atkinson, a swimmer with significant pedigree on the world stage, I think it's fair to say. She finished 2nd in her heat, behind Brianna Throssell of home nation Australia. Now, Brianna Throssell finished in a time of 50.96 seconds, and a fingertip behind her was Charlotte Atkinson, 58.97 seconds, which meant she finished 2nd in that heat, but of course it was enough to secure her a place in the semi-final, which takes place tonight in the women's 100-metre butterfly. So we'll bring you all those updates as we get them. Let's head back to Joe Pack now, who's watching the triathlon today, where Jenny Newbury is competing.
Before we talk about Jen Newbury, there has been also an exciting development over the last few days for the island's female swimmers, as it is the first time the Isle of Man has ever had a ladies relay team in the Commonwealth Games, and now they have reached the finals, which are next Tuesday, so that is fantastic, of course, for our relay team. Also in swimming action, as well as running and cycling, was triathlete Jenny Newbury, as Chris has just mentioned. Exhausted at the finish line, Jenny put in an outstanding performance to finish 19th out of 24. And I know it's been a dream for Jenny since she was 10 years old to compete in the Commonwealth Games. She was delighted with the performance. It was been a really hot morning, and also with the water temperature being 24 degrees. And with also competing against the world's best triathletes. Massive support around for Jenny, and I also managed to catch up with her at the finish line.
Absolutely shattered, but really happy. Like, I saw the girls to try and catch up with on the bike, so I knew the run was going to be hard, but I'm not used to obviously running in that heat, and it was tough because there's no one to run with, but these girls are all world class, and this is my first international event, so I'm just like, it was just such a privilege to be able to race with them, and I just hope I've done the Isle of Man proud.
Oh, I absolutely think you've done them 100,000,000% proud. You've given it your all. We've seen you obviously swimming on the bike, you've been running. Which do you feel that you felt the strongest at?
Definitely the bike. That's like my strong thing, and like when I'm swimming, although I'm quite confident with that. The sprint's so short that I always still feel really nervous, and although I'm from the Isle of Man, I live in Sheffield now, so I don't do loads of sea swimming. And there's quite a lot of like bashing around and stuff, so I was still a bit nervous then, but once I got on the bike I felt really confident. But like, people told me not to go too hard and save it for the run, but I just went 100% on everything today. There was no saving anything.
And you have just, as you said, you have just raced against some of the world-class athletes around the world.
Yeah.
I mean, that must be amazing for you.
I mean, it was just the most unreal thing to be in the call room with, like, literally looking around at all of my heroes and all these people that I watch on the TV. And I knew, like, I wasn't going to be any competition for them, but just to be able to race against them, like, I only did my first open water triathlon in September 2015, and last year I had a broken foot, so just to be here and race against everyone, like, it was just amazing. And although I'm absolutely knackered, I'm gutted I can't get up and do it all again tomorrow.
Congratulations to Jenny Newbury. I was there, I witnessed the finish. She actually had to go into a wheelchair because she had exhaustion, but she managed to get herself out of the wheelchair, come over to me as she saw me standing there wanting to have a chat. So fair play to Jenny. We're going to be talking bowls after this short break.
Coverage of the 2018 Commonwealth Games, brought to you by Manx Radio and Manx Telecom.
And welcome back to Today at the Games, day one of the 2018 Commonwealth Games here on Australia's Gold Coast. And ongoing at the moment is the lawn bowls, hence why I'm here at the Broadbeach Lawn Bowling Centre. Now, if you caught any of the build-up coverage to the Commonwealth Games, you may have heard me speaking to the lawn bowlers. Mark McGreal is a serving police officer, and it's a family affair because a father-son pairing of Clive and Mark McGreal, managed by Clive's wife and Mark's mother, Bernice. Well, they're taking on Wales currently just outside where I am, and I'll let you know how they're doing in just a second. But speaking to them before their opening match, they talked to me about their nerves, how they were feeling. We've had a bit of rain. They were talking about the surface. Now, Clive and Bernice headed out to Australia a few weeks before Mark to just get accustomed to the weather and play a few warm-up matches. Well, I asked Clive, Bernice, and indeed Mark, how they were welcomed by the Australians.
They're pretty good, in all fairness. You know, we've been here, as you say, for 3 weeks now, and we've played a few of them. There's always a little bit of sledging, there's always a little bit of aggro on their side, but on the whole, they're good people. We've had the benefit now of nearly 2 weeks on these faster greens. They've had a bit of rain over here, so it's not as quick as they would like, but it's made all the difference for our practice sessions.
Bernice, we'll come to you because some would say your job is harder because you've got to keep them in check, haven't you?
Well, I'm doing my best. Yes, it's just a matter of making sure that everything's in place ready for them for the practices, trying to contact managers of other teams, arrange some practice matches prior to the opening of the actual games themselves. And some of those, the preparation's been going well. Challenging conditions today. The wind made quite a difference on the green today compared to what they've had in previous days, but things are going well in general.
Let's talk a bit about the build-up, the preparation you do, organising matches, as you said, against other teams. Now, this is quite interesting because in some sports you can train, you can practice on your own and you can get better like that, but with bowls it's very difficult because you're reacting a lot of the time to the bowl that has just played. So how do you set these matches up? Who do you decide who you're going to play against?
Well, the first priority is making sure that as far as the group stages are concerned, it's not a team that we would meet in that stage of the competition. And then looking at the schedules that they have, trying to make sure that we can actually accommodate a match between us. Because we've played lots of bowls around the world and against some of these teams before, we tended to know some of the managers have been bowling themselves in previous competitions. So it's been quite a friendly atmosphere in getting to make these arrangements.
Hours away now from the competition getting started in earnest. How much are you looking forward to it?
I'm starting to get really excited now. Fortunately, we've got an evening session. So the speed of the green is going to be more to our liking rather than in the baking sun, which is going to be extremely dry and a bit quicker than what it would be in the evening, which suits both mine and my dad's play. So looking forward to it now.
There has been quite a bit of rain here in this part of Australia over the past few weeks. How is that affecting the surface, and how does that affect your preparations and what you do on the day?
Yeah, it affects it massively. If they have one whole day of sun, from one day to the next, it'll be sort of 2 seconds, 3 seconds quicker. So the more rain they have, the speed will be kept down. The average speed that we're practicing on in the likes of the NSC is about 14 seconds. To the layman, it might not seem a lot, but when they get up to 17 seconds, it means whether you're driving at the head or whether you're just having a light feather touch. So it can affect the green absolutely massively. And the way that we've been performing on the greens that they've had at the moment with the amount of rain, it's just been an added bonus to ourselves, really.
And somewhat ironically, I think to the people at home listening to your accents, the first team we're playing is Wales.
Absolutely.
And you've got a funny story about that as well.
Yeah. It's strangely enough, we've played Wales in the last 3 European Championships. We've held the draw on the last 2 occasions, but 6 years ago we happened to be playing the same Welsh pair that we'll be up against this week. So kind of an old score to settle.
Old scores to settle indeed. That was Bernice McGreal, the team manager of the Lawn Bowls, and as I say, the father and son pairing of Clive and Mark McGreal. They are currently in action. It was 3-1 to Wales, but Clive McGreal has just pulled a point back, so it's currently 3-2 to the Welsh, and we say all the best to Clive and Mark McGreal, who are still competing. That just about wraps it up this evening, but Joe, where are you heading this evening?
Well, I'm heading to the pool where you were this morning to go and watch the semi-finals, and it's going to be UK time 12 p.m. that Laura Kinley's going to be in the pool with the semi-finals for the 50-metre breaststroke, and 12:30 UK time Charlotte is going to be with a fly. And then tomorrow we've got coming up a massive day for gymnast Nicole Burns, as she has got her big event, the individual prelims. We've got swimming, we've got cycling, we've got more gymnastics, lawn bowls, cycling and more swimming. That's what's also coming up tomorrow.
Thanks very much, Joe. Well, as they mentioned in the Lawn Bowls interview there, the conditions have been quite blustery today. There has been a bit of rain, so there's moisture on the pitch. It remains to be seen how that will affect the result of the match between the Isle of Man and Wales. But as I said previously, it currently stands Wales 3, the Isle of Man 2, but there's still plenty of time left for the Isle of Man to come back and get a victory here. Well, as Joe eloquently put it there, we have cycling action tomorrow, the men's 400 indoor sprint preliminary round from 2 until 5 o'clock Australian time, with Matthew Bostock and Matthew Draper in action. In gymnastics, Nicole Burns is the island's sole medal hopeful. She's in action from 9 until 2, and if she qualifies for the final, that takes place between 4 and 9 o'clock in the evening. There's more lawn bowls, there's more swimming as well. Guy Davies, the only male in the Manx team for the 2018 Commonwealth Games, he's in action, and that is all the action tomorrow. They're all the sports, but as I say, if you want to keep up to date with the latest, then follow Facebook, follow Twitter, and there's a blog on manxradio.com as well. But that just about wraps things up here from Australia this morning. It's 29 minutes past 5 here on the Gold Coast, which means it's 29 minutes past 8 where you are, and time for the news headlines.